Hello, my name is Rita Weeb, and thank you for joining us on this next in the series of Aging with Attitude. So today is a little bit different, as most of you can see. And as those that have been watching know, we mainly focus on the 45 to 64 demographic, but of course it includes demographics on either side, whether you're younger or older. It is about preparation for that next chapter of life. And today it's going to be that trajectory approach as well. And as we go through our aging and we do the things that we need to do, we're going to also be looking at the whole relevance of technology today and looking at that life trajectory as we go through this. So with me today, I've got three guests, and I'll just, they're professors at various universities around Canada. And we've got with us Natasha Gallant, Andrew Sixsmith, and Shannon Freeman. So what we're going to do is go around and just do a brief introduction, a couple minutes, and we'll start off with Natasha, sort of setting the stage and a self-introduction, what she does, why she loves to do it. So Natasha, could you take that away?
Sure, sounds good. So I'm Natasha Gallant. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Regina in Saskatchewan. And I am in clinical psychology, and my passion is in health psychology. So I started off really interested in chronic pain, things like that. And my passion with that is really about, there's the medical side of all of these health conditions, but there's also the psychological side, the social side. So for me, it was really important to tie those two together, the medical world with the psychosocial side of things. So that's my interest in the health side of things. And then I became more and more interested in the gerontology side and in the aging populations as I did more and more research in chronic pain in long-term care, and began to realize that chronic pain is very undertreated among aging populations. So that's one of my reasons for doing that. So that's me.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Natasha. Andrew, could you just talk about your perspective and why you are where you are and why you love to do it?
Sure. My name's Andrew Sixsmith. I'm a professor at Simon Fraser University in the Department of Gerontology. And I'm also scientific director of AgeWell Network of Centers of Excellence, which is Canada's network on technology and aging. I've been interested in this kind of connection between technology and aging for quite a while now. The reason why I'm interested in that is that we're living at quite a unique time, that we've got demographic aging. Everybody knows that populations across the world are getting older and older. And at the same time, technology has been transforming a lot of the way aspects of our lives. So I'm pretty much been interested in putting those two ideas together from an academic point of view, but also to make sure that what's coming out of the research world gets translated into new products and services that are going to benefit people as they grow older.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Andrew. Shannon.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on this panel. I am an associate professor in the School of Nursing at the University of Northern British Columbia here in Prince George, and I'm a social gerontologist. So all of the work that I have to do connects to promoting the health and well-being of older adults in some way, shape, or form. And at the University of Northern British Columbia, one of the hats that I currently wear is the academic director of the Center for Technology Adoption for Aging in the North. And so one of the key things we're trying to do here is really connect all of these great technologies and things that are being developed to support older adults to age with grace and dignity, and the healthcare system to better support them to do so in northern and rural communities. I'm from a small town myself, and I was very connected to my grandmother when I was very young, and so that's really left an impression on me to really give back and help others. Especially those in rural and small communities, to be able to access the same benefits and resources and supports as others.
Well, thanks so much, Shannon. And now we'll go into a little roundtable with our three professors. Just wanted to point out, and we'll start off with Natasha, but I just wanted to say how I met Natasha. It was a virtual conference that she was giving a presentation on about ageism in the workplace. And I contacted her afterwards. I thought, what a brilliant topic. You know, it's something, it collaborates so well with the medical part, living with a purpose, resiliency, agency, normalizing technology. So, you know, I was so impressed and got to talking to her and have been doing a few projects with her. So Natasha, could you set the stage for us in talking about resiliency, agency, that living with a purpose, lifelong learning,
Sure.
a 45 to 64 demographic?
For sure. So I think really in terms of resiliency, what we're looking at is in the face of adversity, there are some individuals who will still succeed or adapt or do well. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. And we're looking for ways to promote that, especially in that 45 to 64-year-old age group, like you mentioned. And the reason for that is because this is, you know, before you go kind of to the transition of older adult, and what can we do to help people prepare themselves and get more ready to make that transition. This is usually a time when people have not been affected by any, you know, major illness or disability. So we can maybe really target them and help to promote different skill sets that might help them along the way and to really age successfully or healthily and all of that. So that's really my interest there.
Great. Andrew, maybe you can talk a little bit next and talk about, you know, just normalizing the use of technology. What are some of the things that we in that 45 to 64 demographic can do to normalize technology? And what about lifelong learning? I know some of the universities offer these courses on lifelong learning. So could you tell us a little bit about that from your perspective?
Yeah, So I really like the lifelong perspective, whether it's academic or whether you think about it in terms of your own life, mainly because what we do earlier in life has an impact later on in life. I think that's clear. So whether that's to do with our lifestyle or whatever, and the things that we do when we're younger or in midlife has an implication for when we get older. So I think taking that lifespan or lifelong approach is really important. In the field of technology, I think we've got to be aware that we live in an increasingly technologicalized world. A lot of the things that maybe used to be done face-to-face, are done in very different ways nowadays. And we have to be aware as individuals that we can't stand still. We've got to move with the times. Having said that, for many people, it's difficult, you know. So my dad, for example, is pretty old now. He has dementia. There's no way that he can use the technologies like smartphones. He can't even switch on the TV now. So for some people, that's a challenge. But, you know, and I find in my own life that technology changes and it can be really, really frustrating. But, you know, if you're going to participate in a technology-based world, we've got to be aware of those demands on us.
Well, thank you so much for that little piece of information. And I just want to share on my own personal experience too. My mom, who is 85, she too has got a little bit of dementia and she doesn't even really turn on her TV anymore. So it's why I think it's really important for their kids to, you know, normalize what this is about, because, you know, with all of the, I mean, my mom knows how to use a telephone because that's, I guess, normal in her world. I mean, she used to do wonderful quilting things, wonderful scrapbooking things. And now, you know, that whole idea about how to apply this thing to technology, it's just not there anymore. So, you know, I know that sense of agency and purpose somehow, somewhere disappears along the way. And I'd like to, you know, before we're finished our show here, talk about why and where that sense of agency and purpose for doing new things goes. But before we go into that segment, I'd like to turn this over to Shannon because she's got some really exciting things to share about what we're doing here in Northern BC. It's far-reaching effects about technology and older adults. So Shannon, take it away.
Yeah, when we think about all of these technologies that are available to support us, they're available to support different people in different ways, and we need to be aware of, when we're thinking about a technology, what's its purpose, who is it there to help, and how is it there, and is it relevant to that individual in their context. We've done lots of consultation in some small communities here in the north, and sometimes those barriers to adopting technology are also a huge opportunity for meaningful engagement and give families a reason to connect to one another, and give adult children who are visiting their aging parents or connecting on the phone something to talk about. So when mom can't figure out how to use the remote control for the TV, then that gives an opportunity for a conversation with an adult child or a grandchild, to have that conversation. And it can really be an opportunity to actually combat social isolation and loneliness. So we can think about, opportunities with technology a lot more broader. And especially in the rural context, when you have children and grandchildren who are living further and further away from their aging loved ones. And technology can really be a bridge to connect them back together in the global world that we live.
Well, thank you so much. And, I think it's really exciting. And I think just normalizing the use of these virtual platforms as we're doing, I think is hugely important. In my family, I've got other siblings, but Zoom or any other virtual platform is not, the go-to type thing. They're used to Facebook and that sort of thing. And that's not where we normally find our educational programs. So I'm very grateful that, I've started to use this early. As we go into our last portion of our talk today, and take a little bit longer, but I want to just, go around table again. And Natasha, we talked a little bit about, that demographic, and what about the younger demographic, and what about that sense of purpose and agency? So, just feel free to just expand on any of that.
Yeah, so I think, are you talking about kind of 45 to 64-year-old demographic? Is that
demographic? And if there is something that people even younger than 45 can be doing to normalize, for what that stage of their life is going to be. So just feel free to expand.
I think in that sense, I think one of the things that we need to talk about and really dissect is ageism and the ways that we perceive older adults and the ways we see our lives happening as we get older. And I think a lot of it has traditionally been talked about in terms of loss and decline. As we get older, we lose certain things, but that's not the full picture, right? So there's other aspects of that. So I think that's important. In terms of kind of the middle-aged group, in terms of the sense of purpose, I think that one thing we've talked about is about the fact that that's kind of a really good time to have the chance to kind of get rid of some old habits that might not be helping or might not be serving you, and develop some new ones that might help you going forward into the older adult years. So I think that's one thing we've talked about in terms of the sense of purpose. And so I think there's two perspectives, right? You need to address it in terms of resilience, personal resilience, but there's also the societal resistance to ageism that we need to develop, and we need to work together throughout the generations to be able to target that piece. So
thanks so much. And Andrew, your lens about that same thing that Natasha just talked about, or anything else that you think we should be adding?
Yeah, it's an interesting time in human history to be living, right? Because the numbers of people who are now reaching very old age is unprecedented in human history. There's always been older people around, going back to Roman times or whatever, but they were fairly unusual. Now we've got a situation, for example, I've been reading recently that in countries such as Korea, we can probably expect an average life expectancy of 90 by the end of this decade. Right, that is totally unprecedented. Go back a couple of generations across the world, probably people were dying off age 70, early 70s or whatever. So we've got a totally new landscape that we now inhabit as individuals. So, and we don't really have strong models for how that's going to happen. It affects some people in some ways and other people in other ways. So I think for us as individuals, having some sense of purpose and resilience and having a plan for this longer lifespan that we can expect is really crucial. And that's down to us, but I think we need to find new ways, new models of helping people to find that purpose in mid-age. You know, the idea that people are now going to retire at age 65, that's increasingly being challenged. So it's a very interesting thing. We haven't resolved this yet as individuals or as societies, how we're going to deal with it.
Well, thank you so much. And before we go on to Shannon's thoughts around this same topic and older adults and maybe the very old adults, I think they're called, I don't know if anybody has any comments on centenarians, but, you know, just to think a little bit about that kind of thing. So Shannon, do you, can you add to, from your lens, your perspective on the very old adults and some things that we could do to normalize? And also a thought is, what do you think the normal working age expectancy is going to be in the future? I've heard it's 70 or 80 years old. I don't know. So your thoughts on all of that, Shannon?
Yeah, that's going to be a hard thing to predict, what you just said, Rita. But on the idea of centenarians, and we actually have a new emerging group called super centenarians. And those are people who are living to ages over 110 and over 115. And we have an emerging class of those even in Canada. They're an incredibly unique group to study and learn about. And we hear about them in the media all the time with the blue zones. We hear about some of these pockets who are of groups that are famous for advanced longevity. And I've done some work in that myself. And, you know, one of the things that really sticks out to me when you read about reasons centenarians are equating to why they are able to reach advanced longevity is that they find purpose and value and meaning in life and living a life in moderation, you know, and so they find great value in that. And I think technology is one of those things that can provide that opportunity for lifelong learning, that opportunity for meaningful engagement. And one of the things we need to think about, especially when we're thinking about use of technology from the life course perspective, or for people who are lifelong learners, because many of us are, is the language that we're using to describe technology to support adapting to new technologies or adopting a new technology. And some of those language barriers we need to consciously think of, because a large number of our older adult population now, they were among the earliest adopters of information communication technologies, of cellular phones, of the first computers we had back in the 80s, fax machines. And some of the challenges are of keeping up to the pace of new technologies. New cell phones come out every single year with new gadgets, a new language to describe that. So when we think about, you know, the role of adults aged 45 to 64, we can think of the opportunities to develop that shared language with their older family members, friends, and neighbors, to help facilitate that continued adoption through understanding the language that's used to describe technology. Because we know that older adults are more likely to learn technology from younger generations, and they're more comfortable learning about new technologies with their adult children and their grandchildren.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to mention that I know last year you had a little conference up at UNBC, and you had you were showcasing some of these interesting technologies, and so I was impressed. I mean, there's motion detectors for people that wander in the night. There's, that was what I thought was interesting, and the one they had detected, they had programmed something on there that said somebody go back to bed, and they wouldn't listen, so they got it programmed in somebody else's voice, and then they went back to bed. So I thought that was most interesting. But we're in our wind down phase now. So just do a little summation from each of you. Natasha, if you were going to give any advice to the 45 to 64 demographic, to the healthcare system, any institutions of higher learning, what would that be? Your own personal advice.
Yeah, I just think that it'd be important to find ways of developing more resilience so that you can age successfully into those 65 plus years, and also to challenge some of those ageist beliefs that you might have about, growing old, or that other people around you might have. So that's my little tip for today.
Okay, perfect. Andrew, the same questions. What would your advice be to the healthcare system, to the demographic that we're talking about? Any loved ones that you might have. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, the healthcare system, we definitely need to figure out new ways of introducing preventative health rather than just picking up the pieces when everybody gets sick. We've been talking about that for years. That's definitely something that we need to do. On a personal note, I think as individuals, I think the key thing in all 8 phases of our life is finding balance. Between the things that we have to do that we might not like, and those things which we want to do and that we find purpose in. We all have to do a mixture of both. I actually find right now, because I'm in the 45 to 65 demographic, I'm finding more balance in my life than previously, because there's maybe less demands being made on me, or I can deal with them better.
Perfect. And last but not least, Shannon.
I think there's strong potential for technology to really play a key role to support health, well-being, active living, and aging in place, especially for rural and northern communities like where we are here in northern BC. And I think I want to leave with a message of hope, because I work very closely with a lot of health systems, leaders and decision makers and persons at Northern Health who really understand the value of making these technologies more accessible to support persons to continue to age and live in the community, in the place where they want to be, with the quality of life and the highest quality of life that they can achieve. So I think that there's great opportunity as we move forward with the growing numbers of older persons who will continue to live and remain in the North. And so I'm really hopeful, and I think, positive things will happen.
Okay, perfect. And I get to share the last few thoughts. I hope that everyone has found some point of interest in what we've talked about today. And during this time of COVID, really hope that you will find some platforms such as Zoom, or some higher learning, or check out some university courses at the continuing education studies. Continue to, just be proactive in what healthy aging is all about. And, I'd like to say a special thank you to my guests, Natasha Gallant, Shannon Freeman, and Andrew Sixsmith. And until next time, I'm Rita Weeb, and thank you for joining us.